For 1 year, Tunisians have been waiting to see where their country would go after President Kais Saied sacked his government and suspended parliament. And exactly 1 year from that day, Tunisians went to the polls and approved a new constitution that critics say has cemented Saied's grip on power. Tunisia's long-awaited referendum was held Monday with only 30% of eligible voters showing up. And the results were overwhelmingly in favor of President Saied, with more than 94% voting yes. Rival political parties accused Saied's own appointed electoral board of fraud, saying it falsified turnout figures. The new constitution will place Tunisia's president in command of the military, allow him to appoint a government without parliamentary approval, and extend his power over the judiciary. Critics argue that the new measures will remove nearly all checks and balances on the president and make it nearly impossible to remove him from office. Tunisia's fledgling democracy was born after its 2010 revolution that sparked the Arab Spring, where longtime leaders across North Africa and the Middle East were overthrown by mass demonstrations. And for more on where Tunisia is headed, I'm joined from Tunis by Richard Gonzalez. He's a journalist and political analyst, and by Gaia Ben Mubarak. She is a journalist also based in Tunis. A warm welcome to you both, and thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk. So Gaia, Tunisia's long-awaited referendum was held 1 year after President Saied suspended parliament, sacked judges, and sent political opponents to military courts. What's your take on the outcome of this referendum?
Well, so far, the outcome has been seen by political observers and opposers, as well as supporters of President Kais Saied alike, as something that will lead the country to the grounding of one-man rule held by President Kais Saied. However, the reaction on the street, other than the politicized citizens and other than the widespread political spectrum, reaction has been relatively positive. We've seen that start on the night after closing the polling stations, when people went out to the street in Abi Bourguiba Avenue to celebrate, and they were later joined actually by President Kais Saied. And this was even before the initial results were presented and were declared by the electoral commission.
So, Richard, only 30% of eligible voters showed up. Why do you think the voter turnout was so low? What was the mood among the Tunisians?
Well, I think that the turnouts have been low in the last years in the regular electoral elections. Mm-hmm. And I think that the fact that there was no competition in this election has helped to reduce even more the turnout, because most of the opposition was boycotting the referendum. So everyone knew that the yes would win. It's a period of holidays. So I think that the campaign also was not very spirited. So I think that that helps to explain why the turnout is so low. And I think also that there has been some erosion in the popularity of President Saied, because the vote for many people was seen as a show of support to Saied rather than to this constitution. So I think that compared to last year, when Saied had a very high popularity, during this year he has lost some of it. Mm-hmm. So I think that this has been reflected also in the turnout.
So Gaia, does he now have unchecked powers? And what would the new constitution, how would the new constitution and the system work?
Yeah, certainly. So the new constitution has changed, took back the country into a presidential system, basically by a presidential system without any system of checks and balances and any control over the presidential power. So the president, obviously through this constitution, has unchecked powers, while the new parliament system, which will be having two chambers, first chamber is like the House of Representatives and then the House of Regions and districts, can be actually dismissed by the president. Mm-hmm. So why observers fear that this constitution is going to make Saied even more powerful is the fact that it has has no stipulations regarding the limitations of the president, and people could fear that this would mean that Saied is going to have more liberty to issue whatever laws he sees as fitting to his own political project.
So does President Saied, Richard, now have the power to rid the country of the political elite, which he calls corrupt? I mean, how will he move forward?
Well, we don't know. We don't know. I think that an important moment will be when he will announce the electoral law, and we will know how the parliament will be elected. But anyway, most likely the political parties that boycotted the referendum probably will also boycott the elections of 17th of December. So it is not clear to what extent he will keep the same pace or he will change. So far, I think that there has been some arrest or some prosecution of some dissidents, but not a massive crackdown of the opposition. There are some people who suggest that he may ban the Ennahda party as a religious party, because now, in theory, one interpretation of this constitution is that religious parties are not allowed. So we should see if one of these moves that changes the path he has so far taken is the banning or the illegalization of some political parties, especially those with an Islamist referent.
So speaking after the vote on Tuesday, President Saied told reporters that Tunisia has entered a new phase and pledged that those who have committed crimes against the country will be held accountable for their actions. So Gaia, who was he referring to?
I mean, he's referring to like the corrupt businessmen that every regular Tunisian know about, but it's been over a year since he's taken into his own hands all three branches of power, and so far, like, we have not seen any actual prosecution of the people that he's been talking vaguely about. People know these businessmen, but so far Saied has been, I mean, it seems that he's been probably pressured to go after these figures that people see as the cause of their issues throughout the past decade. He's been more prone into targeting political figures that are on, like, the outside seem like to be as these enemies of the people. However, the people that actually control, for example, like the economy, and there are like specific families that control the Tunisian economy.
Yes.
And figures that people know about that they are corrupt have not been prosecuted yet.
So, Richard, how would this new constitution help the country and also the president to address its economic hardships? I mean, will he be able to solve inflation, rising prices, high unemployment? I mean, what should be the roadmap here?
Well, I don't think that the constitution will change anything for that matter compared to the reality during the last year, because in the last year, Saied has had already all powers. So the constitution only codifies this reality. Of course, compared to more than 1 year before, so compared to before 25th of July of 2021, at that time, there was a problem because there was some kind of blocking in the political system between the parliament and the executive, especially the president. Now, there's only going to be one direction. There's not going to be any possibility of blocking between institutions. But this is not something new. This has been like that during the last year.
Yes.
And of course, the constitution doesn't really give you a footprint for the economy, right? Only just gives, establishes that all powers are for the president, who will have free hands to negotiate with the IMF.
Yes, but maybe the constitution could give some confidence to international lenders. So, Gaia, we know that the country is facing one of its worst financial crises and is seeking $4 billion from the IMF. Now that he has taken the full responsibility, how do you think the Tunisian president will balance conditions from international lenders and the needs of Tunisia?
I mean, President Kais Saied for the past year has been always avoiding the talk about the IMF or the needs of the Tunisian people right now in the financial crisis. One, because many people think that he is inept to talk about economic matters, but also I think it is a strategy since he's been always putting his prime minister, Najla Boudin, in the front line in terms of like discussions with the IMF or even like visiting like the Davos conference, but we don't see actually Kais Saied being able to discuss this publicly because much of his rhetoric is built around the fact that Tunisia is going to be getting better through solving its problems internally, and it won't be needing much the help of the International Monetary Fund or international financial institutions. So this is mainly discussed, I think, by the government. So we're going to need to see what the government is going to do, especially that they have announced their new reform program, which stipulates that they are going to accept much of the conditions imposed by the IMF in terms like of imposing austerity, removing subsidies, and more restrictions on public funding to hospitals, schools, and any national institutions.
Yes. So, Richard, how has the international community been reacting to what has happened in Tunisia in the last year and the result of this referendum?
And after the referendum, we have seen a slight change of tone in Washington. Secretary Blinken posted some statements yesterday that were critical of the process, that were critical of the referendum, arguing that there was not enough consensus to push for a change of the constitution. The European Union has been more circumspect. It was asking for a more inclusive process, but it was not critical of the current constitution, not saying that it would imperil the respect of human rights, something like that the US is now saying. And as for example, the Arab League, they have always supported the president. There was a mission of observers from the Arab League, and they gave their approval to the process of election yesterday. So these are mostly the reactions.
Oh, right, Richard and Gaia. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.